had never played Destroy All Humans, but I do remember seeing it on store shelves back in the day. I always found the artwork and name to be intriguing. The trailer looked fun, so I decided to give it a try. So what did I think? Well, my opinion is a bit mixed. I'll start with what I liked. The voiceover work and dialogue was immediately funny, and it won me over.
What's shaking, Pox? You look a little, what's the word, constipated.
As well as the art style and art direction. It's a great looking game, and I just wish more games focused on the art style and less on trying to look hyper-realistic. Crypto's voice sounded exactly like Jack Nicholson's from The Shining, and it was so random, I just thought it was hilarious. I'm a bit biased because that's one of my favorite movies, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the hell that was about. It had to be intentional.
Surely you don't mean those foul-smelling gas bags beyond the fence?
I could just imagine the devs thinking it's hilarious and going with it just for the fun of it. His dialogue is pretty witty and funny throughout the whole game as well. I personally found the topic of UFOs and aliens to be intriguing, so it was fun to see how they weave the story of the game with classic UFO and government conspiracy theory tropes. But I do think Destroy All Humans could have had a much better story, both on paper and just the narrative structure of the game. There are brief cutscenes before some missions, but they're pretty dated and not very engaging or well done cinematically.
Come and get me, you commie piece of crap!
I know, it's an old game. However, the original game came out in 2005, so it's not really an excuse. Just to put that into perspective, that's the same year as Chaos Theory, God of War, and Resident Evil 4, and just 1 year after games like Half-Life 2 and Halo 2. So actually, the level of storytelling in the cutscenes and the storytelling in general were not amazing even for its time. This game really isn't about the story though. It's the gameplay and the style of game. It took me a while to realize that it's actually a full-blown action game. I might even say sandbox. I never played the game before, like I said, so I knew nothing about it. During the first few levels, as they explained that you should stay out of sight, I just started playing like I was Alien Sam Fisher. Eventually, I realized being seen didn't matter at all. That is when I really started to have fun with the game, and that is where the game shined. Between your abilities and your jetpack, you are free to play around the sandbox levels as you please. You also have the ability to interact with the world to create an endless loop of resources, which was shocking to me. I haven't seen that besides Doom Eternal, and honestly, I thought Doom Eternal invented that concept, but obviously not. You have the option to turn humans into health and turn objects into ammo. It's like a fun little retro version of Doom Eternal's gameplay loop once you start kicking ass. You'll have waves of military and police to kill, and you'll have so many options to choose from. You can grab them with telekinesis and launch them into the sky. You can fly over buildings with your jetpack, you have an arsenal of guns, and you can just keep pulling health and ammo as you please, rather than having to find them like you normally would in games. Another really cool feature of this game is the UFO, or is it UAP now? Whatever. You can get into your UFO and actually fly around the map, like freely, around the whole entire map. It's really impressive for a game this old. I was pleasantly surprised, and I could only imagine how cool this could have been for people playing it back in 2005. It's not the greatest game in the world, but it can be fun. I mean, it's the little things that really can be memorable. For example, I still remember how awesome it was in Spider-Man 2, the 2004 version, being able to swing around the city and fight random thugs on the street and leave them hanging on light poles. That was groundbreaking for its time, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who played Destroy All Humans when it came out that had a similar experience. Just causing havoc, flying around with your jetpack, standing on buildings and electrocuting a street full of enemies, dropping mini nukes as you fling people with your telekinesis at the same time, literally blowing up buildings with your UAP? Or is it UFO? Whatever. Alright, this is getting longer than I wanted these quick checks to be, so I'll keep the rest brief. I can understand if people hold this game in high regard, and might even be on some personal top favorite games lists. However, to someone that is just playing it for the first time today, it's a little mixed. I can appreciate it, and I did generally enjoy some moments while playing it, but it is not without its shortcomings, both by today's standards and just in general. The UFPAO's
flying saucer.
Flying and aiming controls are not pleasant to me. They work, but I didn't like the controls at all, which is a bummer because the concept was great. My god, the final level was so annoying trying to aim with it. Another thing is that by today's standards, you kinda expect more enemies at once, and this is a remake, so they could have upped it a bit. The general game design of the campaign missions aren't impressive, but they are enjoyable despite being basic and simple. The game just has a flavor of mediocrity in the mission designs. I think they did great with the idea and concept, loved the humor of the script, but overall the game is just lacking. The boss fights are pretty much nothing but shooting a bullet sponge until the health bar is gone, and there's not much depth to the missions either. They almost have an arcade feel to them. I'd say the best missions require stealth, because you actually had to interact with the environment and use your brain, not just shoot at a bullet sponge. You also have a skill tree where you can spend your XP to level up your guns, abilities, and your UFO as well. If you wish to get more out of the game, aside from the story missions, you can revisit any level and do minigames. Again, these feel more like arcade games than anything. I didn't really enjoy any of them. I personally like having a quest to do. Challenges just feel like busy work to me. I think this game could be worth checking out if you're able to enjoy older games from past generations, and you like sandbox games. But let me be clear, it's an old game. It plays like an old game, and it feels like an old game, despite being a remake. To be honest, with how many games there are now, this game didn't have much pull on me. It is fun to fly around with a jetpack and shoot mindless NPCs, and there is that extra content there with the challenges to further upgrade your character, but I personally wasn't eager to play beyond the main quests. However, this game does have its audience, and it can be fun for the right person. But yeah, I can tell they had a great concept and starting point with this game. I actually would be open to checking out the sequel, and I'm hoping it improves on things I thought were lacking here. And if not, then hey, I hope they make a brand new installment from scratch with how far games have come since the original. It would be awesome because the concept is gold. It just needs better execution of the game design and some more thoughtfulness on mission designs for my taste. You know what? As I say this, I definitely want a new installment with the power of modern hardware. So I wouldn't recommend this game outright. If you enjoy older games, then there is some fun to be had in the sandbox gameplay. Besides that, it feels like a first stab at a great idea. Definitely not enough to recommend to a modern day player.